Hello everyone. Today we will talk about alginate. Alginate, the word comes from alginic acid. Alginic acid is a naturally occurring hydrophilic colloidal polysaccharide. History of alginate. It was developed as a substitute for agar because there was scarcity of agar during World War II because Japan was the prime source of agar. Currently, alginate is more popular than agar because it is simpler to use. Types. Types of alginate, it is of two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is fast setting and type 2 is normal setting. Supplied as, the alginate is supplied as a powder form. It is a bulk packing in tins, bins or sachet. It is a pre-weight. A plastic scoop and a plastic cylinder is used for measurement of the powder and the water. Application. It is used for impression making when there are undercuts, as we know that we cannot use the impression compound in the undercuts. So the second is in mouth with excessive flow of saliva. Third is the partial denture with clasp. Then making preliminary impression for complete dentures. We can also use alginate for impression for complete dentures as well as the impression compounds. Impression to make study models and working cast, and then for duplicating models. Composition, their ingredients and its function. We need to know about this so that we will understand about the setting reaction. The first ingredient is 15% sodium or potassium or triethylenamine alginate. Its function is to dissolve in water and reacts with calcium ions. Second is 16% calcium sulfate. It is a reactor. It reacts with potassium alginate and form insoluble calcium alginate. Then the third is 4% zinc oxide. It acts as a filler. Then 3% potassium titanium fluoride. It acts as a gypsum hardener. Then 60% diatomaceous earth which act as a filler. Then 2% sodium phosphate which is a retarder which reacts preferentially with calcium sulfate. And then traces which is coloring and flavoring agents, that is wintergreen, peppermint, anise and orange and etc. Now the setting reaction. When alginate powder is mixed with water, a sol is formed which later set to a gel by chemical reaction. The final gel, that is insoluble calcium alginate, is produced when soluble sodium alginate react with calcium sulfate. The reactor. The insoluble sodium and calcium sulfate. However, the reaction proceeds too fast, there is not enough working time, so the reaction is delayed by addition of the retarder, trisodium phosphate, by the manufacturer. Then the setting reactions. Calcium sulfate prefer to react with the retarder first. Only after the supply of the retarder is overdosed, calcium sulfate reacts with sodium alginate. This delay the reaction and secure adequate working time for the dentist. Then the reaction number 1 is here. Then reaction number 2, sodium alginate reacting with calcium sulfate and water. So the calcium alginate is forming and sodium sulfate is forming. Initially the sodium phosphate react with the calcium sulfate to provide adequate working time. Next, after the sodium phosphate is used up, the remaining calcium sulfate react with sodium alginate to form insoluble calcium alginate, which forms a gel with water. The gel structure. The final gel consists of a brush heap of calcium alginate fibril network enclosing unreacted sodium alginate sol, excess water, filler particles, and reaction byproducts. It is a cross-linked structure, and calcium is responsible for the cross-linking. Properties of alginate hydrochloride. The first is taste and odor. Alginate has a pleasant taste and smell. The flexibility. It is about 14% at a stress of 12.2 Newton. Elasticity and elastic recovery. Alginate hydrochlorides are highly elastic but less when compared to agar, and about 98.2% elastic recovery occurs. Permanent deformation is more for alginate, about 1.8%. Reproduction of tissue detail. Detail reproduction is also lower when compared to agar hydrochloride. Compressive strength ranges from zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.9 MPa. Factors affecting strength: the water powder ratio, the mixing time, and the time of removal of impression. The water powder ratio is too much or too little water reduce gel strength. Mixing time: over and under mixing both reduces strength. Time of removal of impression: strength increases if the time of removal is delayed for a few minutes after setting. Properties of alginate hydrochloride: synergesis and imbibition. If left in dry atmosphere, water is lost by synergesis and evaporation, and if it's immersed in water, it absorbs water by a process known as imbibition. Dimensional stability: set alginates have poor dimensional stability due to evaporation, synergesis, and imbibition. Therefore, the cast should be poured immediately. Biological properties: no known chemical or allergic reaction have been identified for alginate. The silica particles sometimes have dust in it, which can cause a health hazard. Avoid breathing the dust. Some manufacturers supply dust free alginates. Dustless alginate contains glycol that is coated by the powder. Addition: alginate does not adhere well to the tray, so good adhesion is important for the accuracy of the impression. The retention to the tray is achieved by mechanical locking feature in the tray or applying an adhesive. Shelf life and storage: alginate material deteriorates rapidly at elevated temperature and humid environment. The material should be stored in a cool, dry environment, not above 37 degrees Celsius. The lid of bulk package can be replaced after every use so to minimize moisture contamination. Stock only for 1 year. Manipulation: fluff or aerate the powder by inverting the can several times. This ensures uniform distribution of the filler before mixing. The top of the can should be taken off carefully to prevent the very fine silica particles from being inhaled. Mixing equipments include a clean flexible plastic bowl and a clean white braided reasonably stiff metal spatula. Water powder ratio: the proper water powder ratio as specified by the manufacturer should be used, usually 1 measure water with 2 level scoop of powder. The water is taken first, the powder is sprinkled into the water in the rubber mixing bowl, and the lid of the metal can is replaced immediately. A proper mix is smooth and creamy with a minimum voids and does not drip off the spatula when it is raised from the bowl. Mixing: the mixing started with a stirring motion to the wet powder with the water. Once the powder has been moistened, rapid spatulation by sweeping or stropping against the side of the bowl is done. A vigorous figure eight motion can also be used. This helps remove most of the air bubbles. Wipe dissolved algin from the surface of the yet undissolved algin, thereby promoting complete dissolution. Mixing time: fast set alginate 45 seconds and normal set alginate 60 seconds. Working time: fast set alginate 1 and 1 by 4th minute, normal set alginate 2 minutes. Gelation time or setting time: type 1 fast set, that is 1.5 to 2 minutes, and type 2, that is normal, is 3 to 4.5 minutes. The dentist can best control the setting time by altering the temperature of the water for mixing alginate material. Colder the water, the longer is the gelation time. Warmer the water, the shorter is the gelation time. Even the mixing bowl and spatula can be cooled. Alginate can be retained by mechanical locking features in the tray, a rim lock, that is a beading round the edge of the tray, perforation, holes or slits in the tray, applying adhesive available as liquid or sprays, or a combination of the above. Tray with rim lock and perforation is recommended for the alginate. The tray should cover the entire impression area and provide a space for at least 3 mm on all the sides. These are the perforated trays which can be used as alginate impression tray. Loading the tray: the mixed alginate is pressed and swept into the perforated rim-lock tray so that the material is forced out through the holes in the tray, thereby locking itself mechanically into the tray. So once the tray is seated, it must be held in place firmly without any movement. The alginate impression should be left in the mouth for at least 2 to 3 minutes after initial gelation. Removal of the impression. An alginate impression, when set, develops a very effective peripheral seal. This seal should be freed by running the finger round the periphery in addition to holding the tray handles. Additional displacing force may be applied with the finger on the buccal flanger of the set material and tray. Disinfection. After removal from the mouth, the impression should be washed with cold water to remove saliva, disinfected by immersion in the suitable disinfectant, covered with a damp napkin to prevent drying. Cast should be poured as soon as possible, preferably within 15 minutes after making the impression. Storage of alginate impression. If we need to store the alginate impression for more than 15 minutes, so we should use these techniques, like the wrapping the impression lightly with a moist paper towel and cover with a rubber ball. Keep the impression in a sealed plastic bag. Advantage of alginate. It is easily to mix and manipulate. Minimum requirement of equipments. Flexibility of the set impression. Accuracy if properly handled. Low cost, comfortable to the patient. It is hygienic as fresh material must be used for each impression. It gives a good surface detail even in presence of saliva. Disadvantage of alginate: cannot be electroplated, so metal dyes are not possible. It cannot be corrected. Distortion may occur without it being obvious if the material is not held steady while it is setting. Poor dimensional stability, it cannot be stored for longer time. Poor tear strength. Thank, thank you very much. Hope you guys like this video. So please like and subscribe our channel. Thank you.